It's 11 p.m., and you're deep inside a tutorial for something that has nothing to do with your job. Last month, it was photography. Before that, coding. Before that, psychology, music theory, a language you may never use. You have 5 unfinished projects, a browser full of tabs from 5 different worlds, and one question that keeps circling back. Why can't I just pick one thing? Everyone around you seems to have a lane. They introduce themselves in one word. I'm a designer. I'm an accountant. I'm a lawyer. And when someone asks what you do, you freeze, because the honest answer is a list. Most people look at you and see someone unfocused, a jack of all trades, master of none. They tell you to specialize, to stop starting things, to finally commit. But the truth is the exact opposite. That restless curiosity you keep apologizing for is not a lack of discipline. According to the psychology of polymaths, it is one of the most reliable patterns found in the people who reach the very top of their fields. Your multiple interests are not the reason you're behind. Used correctly, they are an unfair advantage almost no one teaches you to use. Welcome back to Psychology. Today we're breaking down the psychology of the polymath, the multipotentialite. What research actually says about minds like yours, 3 unfair advantages you're already carrying, and how to stop scattering that gift and start compounding it. This isn't a flaw with a nickname. It's a documented profile called polymathy, the serious pursuit of multiple fields across a lifetime. The strongest evidence comes from an unlikely place, the biographies of Nobel laureates. Researchers Robert and Michele Root-Bernstein studied laureates across science, literature, economics, and peace, and compared them to less decorated colleagues in the same fields. The pattern was striking. Laureates were far more likely to have serious outside interests: painting, music, poetry, crafts. The average laureate stayed genuinely engaged in more than 2 separate fields, and many said it wasn't an accident. Their side pursuits were a deliberate strategy, fuel for their biggest ideas. The people at the top weren't the narrowest thinkers. They were the broadest. 3 unfair advantages. Advantage 1. You can import ideas. A team stuck for weeks shares the same training, the same mental map, so they're all searching the same small territory. Then someone connects the problem to something from a completely different field, and the room goes quiet because it works. Psychology calls this far transfer, carrying a solution across the border between 2 unrelated fields. Specialists can't make that move, not because they're not smart, but because you can't import from a country you've never visited. Every interest you've built is a border you've crossed. Advantage 2. You're immune to the expert's disease. When a field changes, and every field eventually does, the specialist's 20-year map can become outdated in 20 months, and it hits them as an identity crisis. You've already lived that shift, over and over, every time you entered a new field as a beginner. You know how to not know, and you know that discomfort passes. That repeated exposure is exactly how entrenchment gets broken. What feels like restlessness is actually a workout, building adaptability, arguably the most valuable trait in a world that refuses to stay still. Advantage 3. You can own an intersection. Becoming the best in the world at one thing is nearly impossible. Millions are competing for that single spot. But becoming genuinely good at 2 or 3 things and combining them puts you in a category with almost no competition, because almost nobody shares your exact combination. A decent writer who understands psychology and video can build something a world-class writer alone can't. You don't have to win the crowded race. You can walk over to the race with one entrant, you, and collect the prize. When you live this way, the trait doesn't disappear. It matures. The scattered version of you was a field of fragile seedlings. The integrated version is the forest, layered, connected, able to survive what flattens single-crop minds. The question that used to haunt you, "What do I do?" slowly loses its grip, because you were never supposed to be a job title. You were supposed to be a combination, Out of the three advantages, importing ideas, immunity to entrenchment, or owning your intersection, which one do you recognize in yourself the most? Tell me in the comments. And if this reframed something for you, share it with the friend who keeps apologizing for having too many interests, the one who needs to hear they were never scattered, just early. Subscribe to Hycology, and I'll see you next time.